And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the lost sheep of Israel. And I want to thank you for joining us this morning because we're going to be going through a pretty interesting and return to this same subject. So before we do, we also offer people where if you want to, which you'll see we also offer at the end. If you have not, or if you was interested in joining some of the classes that we have in King James Bible University that you actually don't see on YouTube or Vimeo and other places, you can look down in the description. You can see where you can fill out an application and enrollment form and submit it to where you can gain admission to the school. And I want to just make this one thing pretty clear. We had some people who decide to fill out the application, but they choose not to submit their image. And if you're not willing to submit your image, then you're not willing to join the school. And this is with any school that you go to where you need to have an ID to where we need to see who we're dealing with. So if you'd like to join the King James Bible University, you're more than welcome to join it, but then make sure that you look in the description and you'll see where it says King James Bible University enrollment form, and you'll see the admission application, and you click on that to where you can join the school. And then that'll be overviewed, and from that point you can gain access not only to the university, but then we have other classes. That's one class we even have just ending this morning, which Elder Jenkins runs, to which you'll be able to join that also if you choose to do so. But what we really want to focus on this morning is a couple of things, because the mind of flesh, we want to look at that, and I made some adjustments also on my screen to where we can come in a lot bigger with the wording, and hopefully it can help out some of our more elderly people to see the scriptures on what we're doing. Excuse me. So we need to look at this mind of the flesh, because mind of the flesh is really self-righteous. Mind of the flesh can get you in a lot of trouble. But have you ever thought that you personally were self-righteous? Many people are going to say they wasn't, or they never was. But you do wrong, but in your own mind, the reason you did it, you were being self-righteous in your own mind. So you have seen what I've done a teaching on the biblical view on what self-righteous was. But now we're going to go into the mind, the inner workings on self-righteous. And what is self-righteousness? Because if you worshiping, and I want to make this pretty clear to anyone that's out there, and that can always come up and they want to challenge it and they do whatever. We have a lot of people, they love to challenge in the comment section, but they never willing to stand before anyone. They only stay in the comment section. So this we always say, as the Bible says, so if you worship in whatever day you want righteous, whatever day that you want righteous, a Monday, a Tuesday, a Sunday, a Thursday, you can do whatever day you choose. And God said the Sabbath day, but you say my Sabbath day is Sunday. That makes you righteous in your own mind, because you still done the act of worship in thinking that you was pleasing God. and you wasn't. So however you want to see it, however you want to think about it, however you want to look at it, you'll go even overboard. And have you ever thought about the images and the imagery that you even wear? Most people don't even look at that. Most people don't even look at where they put on the cross or have a picture or a painting. And the very image in your mind is what you are worshiping. Making the image of an example of what you see is that is righteous. Some even use their own vision of righteousness. What is the point when you are so self-righteous, you seeking what you want to sit there and call your righteousness, but then you want to say this is the righteousness of Christ? So that's why we got to look at this. We got to go in it and we want to tear it down. So let's look at this, and we're going to go into it and see some things here. So we're going to invite you over to Matthew chapter 5. We're going to look at verse 20. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 20. And I want you to see this. Now, I do know some people, they ask the question why sometimes you'll see these black and where Yahushua spoke. And I want to give you guys some information there. Actually, I don't like that one. I want to give you guys some information there. The reason you always see the black in the Sovereign King James Bible, and when you see it's in red, and then you see these black lettering showing up, where it's saying red and you think it's an error. It's not an error. It's letting you know it's italicized, and it's italicized meaning it was added to the Bible for clarification. Not that I did that, but it was added by the translators who translated the Bible from the Paleo Hebrew to English. So I'm just helping to show you more so when you see that it's technically not what Christ said, or when you see him, what it's telling you is it was added to help us clarify what he was saying. So that's why when you see it, it's in black. It's just showing you he didn't say that, but it's added to help clarify what he did say. So that's why when you see it, it's not an error in your Bible. It's not a problem in it. It's just showing you it was added to it. So what we have done, we just sit there when it's italicized, it's just in black because we know he didn't say it. So that's why you see the Sovereign King James Bible assist you in doing that. But it says this. It says, "For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall no case enter into the kingdom of God." So this clearly is telling you something that is very clear, and it should be to us. Yahushua is saying, unless your ways, your acts, your figure on what you see of righteousness exceed. You see what he's saying? Exceed. So we know exceed is telling you it's greater or superior than this, even the scribes and the Pharisees. But you still going to come up with your own doctrine and your own road on what you're doing. So the best example, we're going to look at something. We're going to look at something for the best example. So I can put these back here because I want to do it a certain way. But we're going to look at some of this. We're going to go to Philippians chapter 3, and we're going to look at verse 15. We want to go right here, and we're going to look at this right here. And it says, "Let us, for that reason, therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded, and if in anything ye be otherwise minded, God shall reveal even this unto you. So the image of righteousness, is for many as to be perfect. But we got to remember the mindset. We have to remember the mindset. And he goes on here when we get into Philippians chapter 4, picking up at verse 7 and 8. He started clarifying some things over here. You see, he's saying a mouthful over here. It says, but the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your heart and mind thought through Christ Jesus, through the anointed one of salvation. It's telling you clear. So if we keep our mind and thoughts there, but the problem we have, we like to always try to run it another way. But Paul says something that makes something pretty clear. He says, finally. So he going to sum all this up. Brother, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. He's making this clear. This is pretty clear here. Why? Because he's telling you we need to think on these things. Anything being honest, just, pure, lovely. Anything that is good report, virtue. And if there be any praise, it should be towards these things. Because he's was taking us somewhere for us to understand something. Because when you see if those are good and pure, we know this is speaking of the mind of Christ, not the mind of our own selves. See, but we had the biggest problem of a lot of things, and I'm going to show you what these are. We're going to look at something. I want to show you something. We're going to go to Matthew. We're going to go to 32, and I want to show you something that we do. We're going to go to Matthew 23 and 32. Because I want to show you something here that we do. We're going to look at, actually 23 and 2. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm saying 32. 23 and verse 2. And this is clear to us. This is pretty clear to us. It says, see, Yahushua was talking. He said, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. You can't tell me this is what we don't do. We love to sit in Moses' seat. Men love to sit in the position of Moses in making up their own laws. This is what we like doing. It's being self-righteous. That's why they're sitting in Moses' seat. Teaching their own doctrines, making up their own commandments, their own statutes. Because we love sitting in our own seats. We love to sit in the seat of Moses. We have people who sit there and tell you that God told them this and God told them that. And so then they delegate it out to you. Sitting in Moses' seat. God only spoke to Moses in that way, but people love to say, he told me this, he told me that, he told me this, he told me that. Love sitting in Moses' seat. See, but when you look at everything as a whole, we know a couple of things. That, one second, we just want to make sure that we are clear on a few things. So in Colossians chapter 2, verse 22, it says, which all are perish with the using after the commandments and doctrines of men. But he question marked that. He question marked that. Because we got to remember, when we sitting there, we telling people, we doing these things. We telling people based on what we think. And just as I showed a couple of people the other day, it had a guy. Now, I'm not going to even go into the names of them, but it had a guy. He has a pretty good following, but he said out of his own mouth, he said by his wisdom, he delivered a lot of people. Telling you clear as day who he is. This is the problem we run into, but we want to be in cliques because we think where the most people are, that's where the righteousness is. But they can go on and keep going more and more and more, and they are nothing more than scribes and Pharisees. Nothing more than scribes and Pharisees. So in the same thing, when we go into Matthew 23, looking at verse 14, let's go down a little bit. That's why Yahushua said this. He made this clear. He says, woe unto you. So because of you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Because these men is creating their own doctrines. So because of you, creating your own doctrines and teachings and worshiping, they do all kinds of things. Because he's going to tell you what they do. He said, for ye devour widow houses, and for the pretense make long prayers. See, sometimes I got to stop some places because it brings me back from times when I used to attend churches that do this. Now, I'm tell you now, the only part I can benefit is one thing. When I was growing up, in the church that I grew up in, and my mom and them, we all sat in there. They didn't personally do that. Now, did they teach their own doctrine? 100%. But they personally wasn't doing that. And what they do, people would do long prayers. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes long. That's what they do. And you can go in churches all day long, you'll see that. Once I got grown and I went to some other churches, that's what they was doing. They'll have music playing and they'll pray for 15, 20 minutes like it's nothing. And it's telling you what they're doing. They're hypocrites. And I was just as much a hypocrite sitting in there. So we can't sit there and play these games and point fingers at, that's what they was doing. I'm in there doing it right along with them. I'm not doing it per se, but I'm sitting in there supporting it. See, this is the problem we have. Most people sit there like, no, that's what they were doing. I'm just there. No, you supporting it. You cash in the checks they writing. So it still makes you self-righteous. These men are nothing more but hypocrite. Divided loyalty unto undecided people. And seeing what a hypocrite is having something that is divided in loyalty. Something that is undecided. Because you're going to sway either way. More so, they be this counterfeit and they pretend to be one way and they'll fly whichever way the wind blows. And this is for what else they do? They devour widows' houses. What? For money, they devour the house. For money, they devour the house. They'll tell that widow, you give this to God, you give that to God, you do this for God, you do that for God. You need to give something to God. They make these long prayers, but he tells you right up front, for that reason, ye shall receive a greater damnation. For that reason. He said, for that reason, you doing that, for that reason alone, you're going to receive a greater damnation. I don't care how we sit there and we try to change things, but the problem we become with is that people will sit there and then they're going to try to make an excuse for the excuse. See, you have people where they'll sit there and they'll pray on top of one, they'll pray on top of another, they pray on top of another, they pray on top of another. And after all this is going through, after all these long prayers, anybody that they do them prayers, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, same thing is telling you right there, you're going to receive a greater damnation. A greater damnation. Why? Because you're a hypocrite. You feel you self-righteous and you feel you have that kind of clout with God. Telling them your lies, and most of us will sit there and what we'll do, we'll sit there and thank him for one thing, then we ask him for a bunch of stuff. Thank him for one thing, but then we ask for everything. Thank you, Lord, for this day. And Lord, I want you to bless my mama, my daddy, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, my friends. Bless the birds, bless the air, bless. All of a sudden, you want everything blessed. Who are you? And the first thing we need to understand is, first you need to thank him for you and for him putting you in your right mind. And everything should be concentrated on what he is doing to help you to get closer to God, to understand what was happening from the beginning. But we don't go there. We just go right here and then we go, Lord, then now I want you to bless everybody. Why? Because we self-righteous. Let's look at something. Let's go over here to 24. Let me highlight this, and we're gonna go somewhere on this. And we're going to 23, and we're gonna look at 27. Why? Because this is what we do. We're good at doing this. It says even more here. It says, because unto you, woe unto you, because unto you. And same thing. I had a fool in there talking about what he said what woe mean based on coming from these Christian churches. And the same thing I said, and I make this always prevalent. If anybody is calling himself a Christian, if that Christian, you can be standing outside in the bright of noonday, and that Christian tell you it's sunny out here, you better look up. If he says sunny out here, you look up. If it's at night and he say this is a nice night, you look up and you make sure it's night. And seeing this, I'm saying with all seriousness, because a Christian is that blind. They're that blind. But he tells you, he says, because unto you scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because that's all they are. There's no other way. Hypocrites. He says, for we are like unto white sepulchres, for ye are like unto white sepulchres. Talking about a pure stone, which indeed in works appear beautiful outward. You look good outward. Everything you do is out. Everything you do on the outside, it looks good. Actually, let's go somewhere. Let's tie this in a little bit more. Let's pull this a little bit closer. We're gonna go to Ephesians. I want to get this a little bit closer to us. Oh, wait a minute. You got that wrong. E-N-E-S. Sorry about that. I want to get this a little bit closer. I want to get this a little bit closer to us. Why? Because I want to make sure we get this. So we sit there. That's why we make them long prayers, because we want to look beautiful outside. They look like, man, look at look at the way the prayer, he broke that prayer down. Whoo, man, that was good. I have heard these things. Man, that was a serious prayer. And where I was serving at one time, we had 3 people be up there. 3 people. And each one to pray. And I'm sitting up there. One of the deacons sitting up there. I'm sitting up there. And I sit up there, and it'd be 3 of us. We'll do a hymn and do a prayer. Then it goes to the next one. Do a hymn, do a prayer. Go to the next one. Do a hymn, then do a prayer. One of us can pray longer than the other. We seeing what, I'm showing you the hypocrite. I'm showing you how I was being a hypocrite. We seeing how we can pray a certain way. Put in catchphrases, new words. Why we pray. People come up later, boy, I sure enjoyed that prayer. But what I did that prayer for? See, I was doing that prayer because I was saying things that they didn't know. But I still got them out of there because I didn't hear them before around the church. So I used them. And I had one, I just called him JP. I love that brother dearly. And see, and I loved him a lot and still do. But the main thing with this is, this brother, he sang these hymns, and I'm talking about to show you how hypocritical we was. Now, this brother had a certain voice. He can sit there, and I'm talking about, and he'd tell me before service, he gonna make them jump up. Now, he had the voice to do it. Now, I kid you not, he had the voice. He'd have people, boy, they'd go crazy, and he'd do it. He'd go, and boy, they up and they going. And then he'd drop a prayer. And then most times I'd go before him, and then he'd go after me. And sometimes, the way he sing, I'd tell him, hey, man, I used to try to control some of the ways he sang, some of the songs he sang, because he do certain ones that I'm talking about. He did them in a really beautiful way. So I said, hey, man, I need you to do this song. I need you to do this one. Do this one for me. Yeah, okay. He said, I'm going to get him up off the floor. I said, okay. And he do just what he did. And then we had other men trying to add up to him. And they always came up short. But what was the bottom line of that? We was appearing in our works beautiful outside. Beautiful outside. But within, we were full of dead man bones and all uncleanness. But all we were doing, not with eye service, but as men pleasers. That's all we were doing. But as servants of Christ, doing the will of God from their hearts. That's something we wasn't doing. But we were doing men pleaser stuff. We were trying to sit there and do things and letting people see eye service. Inside and outside, we were faking the funk all the way through. Faking the funk all the way through. See, these are something that we have to understand what we have done. Being self-righteous. The scribes and Pharisees, On the outside, being real beautiful about it. Had on the suits, and we'll sit there and we'll go in there with our suits on and drop those hymns, and we do what we had to do. But now you have these men where they look and they'll rob you of your wealth. So I need you to think about something. I need you to think about something. I want you to really think on this. And I want you to know where we're coming from on this. When you look at something, is all flesh sin? I want you to think on that. Is all flesh sin? Or is all sin flesh? Think about that. See, this is something I want you to think about, not just during this moment, but even later. Is all flesh sin, and is all sin flesh? I'm gonna show you why I'm saying that. I'm gonna show you why I'm saying that. I don't want to put nobody in a trick bag. So, and that's something my aunt used to say. She tell you ain't gonna put me in no trick bag, but I don't want you to be in no trick bag. So we're gonna look at something. We're gonna go to Job chapter 9. We're gonna look at 9. We're gonna park it over here at verse 29. And I want to show you something here. And we're gonna also do verse 30, but I want to make sure we got two different colors running. So it says, if it be wicked, why then labor in vain? So if all flesh is sin, then all your labor is in vain. Think about that. If all flesh is sin, then all your labor is vain. So then if flesh is wicked, then you're doing things according to the flesh, and in your mind is righteousness. That's the catch. I'm hoping I'm not tripping nobody up. So then the labor is vain. Is that true or not true? 100%. It's true. If all sin is flesh, and all flesh is sin, and if it be wickedness, because it is flesh, then labor that's all doing according to the flesh and is being done in flesh is vain. Is it? 100%. Yep. I want you to understand the contrast. But it goes on more here. It says, if providing I wash myself with snow water. Why is it saying snow water? Because snow water, when you look at snow water, it's pure white. So that's why it's saying that. It's pure white. So if you wash yourself with pure water, with snow water, and make your hands never so clean, really, no, you're still dirty. Just because you sitting there, you done wrapped yourself in a white robe, don't make you holy. It's hard to see how we do this, because we'll do certain things. We'll put on, I'll tell you what, mark my words on that. You can go to almost many Baptist churches. You can go to Pentecostal churches. You can go to holiness churches. I guarantee you, I promise you, you go in there and they got a day what they call for women. And all those women going to have on white dresses. Every one of them. Every one of them got on a white dress. As if they pure. Some of them just got out the club, but they got on a white dress. Do just because on that white dress, do that make them pure? On the outside, they look beautiful. But on the inside, they full of dead man bones. But what we do, since we have on these white things, and we have done these things, now in our mind, We're righteous. We're righteous. We fail to look at this stuff. We fail to look at what we actually do. And we fail to see how we judge things. But these are things we do. In Luke chapter 16, he goes on more. In 16 verse 15, Yahushua said something. He said something that was pretty interesting. And we want to look at this. And we want to see how he's running this through here. And he says, ye are they which justify yourselves before men. That's what we do. We justify ourselves before men. We justify ourselves on anything. We justify if we commit adultery. I'm going to show you how self-righteous we are. You got men. Because I'm just telling you, because I'm going to show you the stupidity of men. Men. They'll sit there and their wives is unable to do some duties. She's sick. And he want to have intimacy for whatever reason. She's sick, can't do anything, this and that. He'll sit there to show you his stupidity. Go commit adultery. And the first thing come out of his mouth is, she can't do nothing, so I have to have my needs taken care of. You had a fool that people go to, the same fool, the one I said about earlier. This is the same fool. He sat there and said, you gotta have spares. You gotta have spares. Trying to satisfy flesh. Trying to satisfy. We justify ourselves before men. Which she can't do nothing, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going somewhere else. That's it. But God knoweth the hearts, for they which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. Don't let them have money. Because you're going to hold that man at the highest esteem. You have people, if he has money, the woman who he's getting ready to cheat with know the wife. She can know him. She can know the wife. And she'll lay with that man every time. And be friends with the wife. He done bought her a Gucci bag. Oh yeah. I'm gonna tell you what, she gonna see how far she can get. I need a car. He buy a car. She gonna stay friends with you. Based on what? Based on doctrines of men. Other men doctrines. Because they done came up and they done conjured this stupidity up in their head. This stupidity done conjured up in their head. Let's look at something. This is all doctrines of men. And actually, I forgot I got to do it the other way. Let me do this the other way. I got to go to Sirach. I forgot I got to do it this way. In Sirach. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going too far. Ecclesiastes is Sirach. So let me do this, because I know I did this the last time it worked, to where I just got part of it. So let me see. Yep, and it works. So we're going to go to Sirach. We're going to go to chapter 40, because I'm going to show you how much this is a learned behavior. Learned behavior in this doctrine of men. So we're going to go to Sirach, and we're going to look at 40 and verse 29. 40 and 29. And to tell you, it says, the life of him that dependeth on another man's table is not to be counted for a life. I'm telling you, this is what we do. We done got some doctrine from some dumb man, and then we use that doctrine as righteousness. And doing nothing but pulling another man's doctrine, his theology, seeing life from another man's table, getting the doctrines from men. The stupidest thing in the world, you can't never find in the Bible, but they going to tell you it's in the Bible, and then you still hold to it, being stupid. They'll tell you about apologetics. Oh yeah, apologetics. This is what this is. Really? Show it to me in the Bible. Well, see, this is what this word actually means. This is what this means. To defend the faith. No, that tells you to defend your stupidity. That's the mindset of a self-righteous person. If the Most High God wanted to make sure apologetics was in the Bible, don't you think it would have been there? They done created these words, and same thing. They had a mindset of putting in, well, we got to put in hermeneutics and exegesis. Stupidity. The Bible will tell you the precept. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. But they had done these things, and they went to the stupidity where they do all these things, and they do all this exhaustive Bible studies. All of it is of a man's own understanding of interpretation of the Bible. You can go to it all. You can go to any one of them, and they're going to tell you the definition of that is an interpretation on what they say it is. It's an interpretation. But they're going to tell you dumb apologetics, hermeneutics, exegesis, exhaustive Bible studies, and then they go through commentaries behind commentary. And the reason you got to go to commentary, because why? It's based on another man's table. It's based on what he believes it is. It goes on more. It says this, for he polluteth himself with other men's meat, with other men's doctrine. Are you serious? You got church behind church, behind church, behind church, based on a doctrine that they believe. And it's from another man. It's from another man. This is the problem we have. And then we self-righteous based on the doctrine that he's pushing. He says, but a wise will nurture, will beware thereof. You're going to watch out for that stuff. You're going to look out for that. See, my wife would tell you the same thing. We was at this church. And I was having a struggle. Because I was trying to really seek God. And I thank her for even standing by me, because I was trying to seek him. And, and I'm sitting there, I got to find out. But I still went to the wrong place. So I'm not going to sit there and lie to you and say I went to the right place the first time. I didn't. I went to the wrong place. Because the first thing I did, I went to the pastor and told him, hey, man, I got to go see God, man. I'm trying to find out, because I'm finding as I'm studying, and we show up as I'm studying, I'm finding contradictions, and I just trying to get the understanding. And so I need to go to this higher learning. So I need to go to a seminary, which some people are gonna call them, which they are, cemeteries. So I say, he said, no. If you want to know anything about this Bible, he said, you come to me, another man's table. Don't anything you want to know about this Bible is me. This is what the problem is. This is what the whole deal was the entire time. So what ended up happening? I still was going to do it, because I never let a man control what was really I was leaning on and what my heart was set on. So I said, I'm gonna still do it. Once I decided to do it, now my wife was in 100% support of that. Once I was decided to do it, they removed me as a deacon, and I removed myself from that church. The problem was that they wanted me to be and teach from another man's meat, another man's knowledge, another man's doctrine. That's craziness. Now you have these people doing this and doing it in where they're going to declare their own righteousness their way with God. They're going to declare what they feel is righteous, and they're going to tell God this is righteous. So evidently they're saying God got to accept this. That's craziness. That's craziness. Your ways, God, is okay. But we teaching a new thing, God, and you just got to come up with the times. You don't think we doing that? Oh, we doing that. See, we sitting there thinking we're going to teach God something. Actually, let me run somewhere. We scratching the surface on a lot of this. We scratching the surface on a lot of this. In Job chapter 21. Job chapter 21. Let's look at verse 22. We're going to look at verse 22 and see what he says here. We're going to see what he says here. He says, shall any teach God knowledge? Tell me we don't. See, when you look at yourself, don't look at nobody else. Look at you. See, the quickest thing we do, soon as we do something, we want to look what they do. No, don't you stop doing that. Look at yourself. Can you teach God knowledge? You want to make him laugh? Go to him and think you're going to teach him something. But we do it. God, we're going to tell you what? The Sabbath day is cool, but we're going to tell you what? I'm going to do it on Sunday. I'm going to do it on the first day of the week. We're going to tell you what, God? I'm going to do it on the second day of the week. I'm going to do it on Monday. We're going to tell you what, God? I'm going to do it on Tuesday. We're going to tell you what, God? I tell you what? I'm going to do it on Wednesday. And God, we're going to tell you what? I'm going to do it on Thursday. Who going to teach God knowledge? This is what we do. See, people get upset when you see what we're really doing. This is the mindset of us. Seeing he judges those that are high. We done set ourselves on so high, now we done sit there, and now guess what? We doing everything. We so self-righteous, it's unreal. We sitting there going to teach God something. We'll go as far as arguing with God. We will argue with God. Let's go more. We're gonna deal with Job a little bit. We're gonna deal with Job a little bit. I want to show you something with Job. And people sit there and see to show you the same thing about a Christian church. They this is who they run to when they want to find all righteousness. That's the craziness. But let's look at something. So moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, what did he say? He said, shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? So we contending with God, and then we're going to instruct God. God, I'm coming to you this way. You just got to take it. God, you got to take it. Well, no. You just got to take it, God. God, I told you the Sabbath day ain't good for me. So I'm gonna do it on Sunday. So when you sit there and you think that he that reproveth God, let him answer it. God don't worry, he gonna put you right before you answer him on how you calling yourself, you're going to contend with God. Everyone wrong, including God. Including God. Be so self-righteous. Then check God. Instructing God. You see this. Let's look at this a whole nother way. Let's look at this a whole nother way. We ain't even done yet. We're going to look at this a whole nother way. I want to make sure we're going to go to Micah chapter 3. We're going to pick it up at verse 9. At verse 9, he says this. We're going to go down and we're going to put them all in different ones, because I'm going to show you how we're going to tie them up. And then we're going to do 11. So we're going to do them all. We're going to tie them all up, because I want to do them all different. It says, "Hear this, I pray you, ye heads of the house of Jacob, the princesses of the house of Israel." These are the rulers. These are people who's ruling Israel. So these are people who rule in Israel, that arbor judgment and pervert all iniquity. Pervert all these. They just pervert it. Arbor judgment, the doctrines and teaching, and they pervert it in all equity. In all equity that they do this. What is righteous? What is peace? What is integrity? Equity, right there. It's right here. All equity. What is righteous? What is peace? What is integrity? But we do all evil and think we're trying to still reconcile them with the Most High God. That's what we do. We do it. We do it like clockwork. See, we got to call a spade a spade. I can't sit there and point my finger at you and I know I used to do it too. How am I do that? Then I'm a hypocrite. I'm a recovering hypocrite. That's what I am. I'm not finna sit there and lie to you and tell you I'm righteous. I'm a recovering hypocrite. Sit in the house and we sit there, all of us in the house going to heaven, and all the people outside who ain't in this exact building is going to hell. I was a hypocrite. So now I'm a recovering hypocrite. We have to call a spade a spade. We can't play these games. We have so many of us want to play games. Stop it. We're being self-righteous in our own minds. But he gets better. He gets better than this. Watch what just goes on. Verse 10, it says, they build up Zion with blood. All spiritual. But he keep the fools away from this, because they don't know what it's saying. But he's telling you, he done build up Zion with the lives of the sinful ways. But because why he's saying, he said in Jerusalem with iniquity, with acts of sin. With acts of sin, he's building up Zion. He called himself going to build up the spiritual kingdom with silliness and iniquity. Are you kidding me? But this is what we do. Actually, let's look at this. Let's make sure we know who we're talking about. Let's make sure we know who we're talking. I'm going to make sure we know who we're talking about. We're going to go to Psalms 87. Pick this up. Psalms 87. We're going to pick this up at verse 2. It said, the Spirit of God loveth the gates of Zion. He loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Are you kidding me? He's saying this out of his own mouth. The Spirit loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. He's in there, damn, I didn't even know that was in my Bible. Don't like it, tear it out. If you don't like it, tear it out. He loved the Spirit way more than he loved flesh. You follow me? This is the problem that we go through. Because we want to put more emphasis on things we do according to the flesh, thinking we pleasing God according to the Spirit, and that's silliness. So if we doing things according to the flesh, how in the world you going to sit there and talk about somebody else? It's the same comparison that he'll sit there as he says, I love Jacob and I hate Esau. Actually, you want to tell you what? I'm going to go there. I want to go there because I want to show you something. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there because I want to show you something. We're going to go to Romans chapter 9. Why? Because I want to show you something. I want to show you something where we all get it. We all get it where the goats can all get it and understand it. In Romans 9, verse 13, what is he saying here? He said, as it is written, Jacob have I loved. But Esau, however, I hated. Esau was doing the works of the flesh. Jacob mortified his body and pleased God. Are you following this? Esau didn't. It's them who adhered to the promise of God. It's them. So if you mortify the flesh and you please God, now you can do some works for God. Let's look at same thing. Keep these in mind. Keep them in mind. Keep them in mind. Keep them in mind. I want you to understand what's going on here. I want you to see how this works out. Because he's doing one thing according to the flesh, and he's telling you Esau was of the flesh, but Jacob mortified his body. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. We got to look at some of this and see how this is going. I want to show you how this is all going. Genesis chapter 49, and we're going to pick this up, and he's going to tell you right here. It says in verse 2, it says, gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob. Ye sons of Jacob. You sons of the flesh. But he's going to tell you something. He says, and hearken. You see, it's a semicolon there, so he pivots from what he was saying. So since he pivots, he's sitting there saying, and hearken unto Israel your father. That's of the Spirit. That's of the Spirit. So he loved Zion, Israel, way more than he loved Jacob. Way more. But let's finish over here. Let's finish over here. It's in verse 11. It says the heads thereof judge for reward. They teaching for reward. You can see these self-righteous men everywhere. They sitting there, you want to help this doctor move forward? Drop me a little something. Give me a little something. I need to have a suit. I don't need no cheap suit. I don't need nothing off the rack. I need to have custom tailor-made suits. I need a plane. I need a nice car, and I need a building. And I'm going to teach the word of God for reward. Tell me we don't do that. Self-righteous. But the crazy thing is, we go with it. We give it to them. So we have just as much right to go to hell that they do. You sit there and have one guy, I can't remember his name. He sat there and said he was married. Said, hey, I'll tell you what, God showed me my wife. He was married. Showed me a wife. So he divorced this one, married the one that he said God showed him. Really? Really? The priests teach for hire. What you teaching for hire for? I thought you was hired by God. The same people who do this, do all this silliness. Why? Because it's in the prophets thereof divine for money. That's what they're doing. And the first thing come out of their mouth, the first thing come out of their mouth is this. They would lean upon the Spirit of God and say, is not the Spirit of God among us? Tell me they don't do that. Ooh, the Lord is in this house. Ooh, the Lord is in this house. The Lord is truly in this house. Are you serious? So they're giving you contradictions up front. But we sit there being ignorant. We sit there being ignorant. They saying the Lord's in this house. And the Lord, let's go here. Let's go here so I won't get so upset. I want you to see it. I want you to see what we do. In Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. I want you to see what we do. What we do, and we were doing it like clockwork. Self-righteous. Self-righteous. Howbeit, the Most High dwelleth not in temple made with hands, and saith the prophet. We got two problems here. Two. One, he don't dwell in temples, and then it says the prophet. And guess what? I promise you, most people can't even tell you who that prophet is. Don't even know who that prophet is. I promise you that. I promise you that. Because guess what? You'll never find it. You won't find it that you think you will. Oh, I'm going to show you where it is. But I'm telling you right now, you can go to any preacher and they can't tell you where that prophet is. Let alone, he don't dwell in temple made with hands. So why in the world they in a building saying, right there, is not the Lord among us, and he don't dwell in temples made with hands? Are you serious? These are things we do. But who is this prophet? See, this same prophet is a prophet of God who was like Moses. The same one they want to sit there and call he's God. Silliness. But I'm going to show you the prophet that said that. The same prophet that said that. And this is why he ran that parable and most people didn't get it. This is why he did that. In Mark chapter 14, and you'll see it. 14, we're going to look at this. Let's go over here. 14, we're going to look at verse 58. Let's look at verse 58. Why? Because we're going to look at 14:58. And we heard him say, I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands. That's what happened. You can go right to the verse, and you can actually find him where he actually said it. That's the prophet that said that. Who? Yahushua. That's why he said, thus said the prophet. But since he put it in that format, it threw everybody, and most people try to go look in the Old Testament, and it ain't there. It was always by Yahushua. Because we know all buildings is cursed. It's cursed by God. Actually, let's might well look at it now. We might well go deep into it. Because this is how self-righteous we are. In Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, I gotta put in the whole thing. I didn't know I had to put the whole thing in there. But we're going to go to Wisdom of Solomon. We're going to look at Wisdom of Solomon. We're going to look at verse 8. We're going to look at verse 8. Why? Because it's going to tell us exactly, it's telling us what we did. It's telling you, howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temple made with hands, but that which is made with hands is cursed. In the scriptures. It's right there in the scriptures. Right there in it. Elder Jenkins just taught on it yesterday, telling you what some men did. They took the Bible out because they didn't want you. How you going to sit there and have a bridge and you take the middle out? So now you can't bridge everything together. Now you can't cross to the other side. Why? Because they took the middle of it out. Are you following this? And as well as that had made it, because he made it, in it, because being corruptible, it was called God. Tell me we don't do that. I got to be to the house of the Lord. I got to hurry up and get there. I got to get there. The house of God. The house of everything. Everything got, you want to put God in it. Calling it God. The house of God, the tabernacle of God. That is cursed. Also that who made it. Meaning those same men that you sit and we listen, they curse. We call those God. So I'm going to show you something. And I want the same thing. We got to look at, for a spade is a spade. It don't change. We got to remember what happened. So the same thing where you see people, how they look at it, but I want you to look closely on how this parable going to run on what Yahushua ran. I want you to look at something. I want you to look at it real close. I ran it on the last one, but we're going to go in there because now we focus on the mindset. We looking at the mindset. The last time we just had a biblical view of it. But I want to show you the mindset of us. The mindset of us. So anybody, you got some people in here. Some people in here right now thinking they righteous. They self-right because they self-righteous in their own mind. In Luke chapter 18. Luke chapter 18, we're going to pick it up at verse 9. It says, now he spake this parable. Why? Because it's a parable. The parables are ran. They're ran to confuse many of the readers. For hearing, they don't understand. For seeing, they know not what. It's clear. It's clear today. But watch this. And unto certain which trust in themselves. You see this? Trust in themselves. But we can really find out something because we're going to tear this down. We're going to tear all this down. And he says, they were righteous. They were righteous. They trust in themselves, what we do, and we call ourselves righteous. We call ourselves righteous. But we get ready to find this out. We get ready to see things that we wasn't planning on doing. Watch. And despise others. Why? Because we self-right. We sit, I just said, same thing what we were doing sitting in the church. Everybody in the church going to heaven, everybody outside the church going to hell. Unless they come to this church. You got to come to this church. Don't come to this church, you're going to hell. You don't come to this church, you're going to hell. Tell me we don't do it. You got people out there right now going to be in them churches tomorrow, and anybody who don't be in that church going to hell. Got to come to this church. But we're going to see this. Yahushua ran this in a beautiful way. Because you're going to see some things that I didn't clarify the last time, but we're going to clarify them today. Because now we're looking at the mindset. We're looking at the mindset of this. So it says this. Two men went up into the temple to pray. Why in the world are we going up into this dang temple? because it's the mindset. Don't trip on the mindset. Keep the understanding on the mindset. Don't let that mindset get you thrown off. So they went in the temple to pray. One, a Pharisee, you know you got a partner called a scribe, but one's a Pharisee. And the other, a publican. He not a scribe. So the scribe ain't there. So the Pharisee went. But I want you to understand, and I'm going to show you so you can write this down and you never forget a technical term on how you can look at this. A Pharisee is one who is a doctor of the law of flesh. That's how you hold him. He's a doctor of the law of flesh. When you go look at Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 and go down, he's a doctor of the law of that. So you keep that in mind. But watch this. This is the crazy part. This is the crazy part. Verse 11. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. Did you catch it? Okay. He didn't pray to God. He prayed with him. He didn't pray to God. He prayed with himself. Understand what it's saying here. That's why I want you to really clearly, he stood and thus prayed with himself. But now he's just going to talk to somebody as he think he's talking to God. He's not thanking God. That's the part where everybody missed. He prayed with himself. Let's get some understanding here. Let's get some understanding here. I know some people are like, what? But that's okay. We're going to get this. We're going to get some understanding here. We're going to get some understanding on this. Because we're going to clear this up. We're going to clear this up. We're going to look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. We're going to pick it up at verse 4. Watch what this says. See, because when you can do that, you can do these kind of things. See, because one who opposes exalts himself. That's him. Where do you think Paul got this from? Paul got it from this guy. Paul got it from the parable of this guy. So he said he exalts himself above all that is called God. Because he putting himself on the level of God. And so that his worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. You got it. Got it? Oh, I know we got it. I know we got it. So now we know what's going on. So he's sitting there saying, like he's talking to a homeboy, God. Look at it. Look at it. He's rolling it off like he got it. God, I thank thee that I'm not as other men are. Sitting in the temple. Sitting in the temple. Sitting in the temple. Calling ourselves something else. But watch how you run this. Now, he don't know the man. But watch how he talks about the man. Now, the man can hear him. But watch how he talk about the man. I'm not as other men are. I'm not as other men are. Extorters, unjust, adulterers, or even as this dude over here, this publican, this dude shouldn't be, he too close to me, is. And he don't even know the man. So we need to kind of understand what he even said. He calling this man an extorter. A extorter is a swindler, a crook. Think about that. He don't know the man, and he's calling this man a swindler, a crook. Because that's what that is, an extorter. And he don't know this man. Unjust, meaning he's unrighteous. He don't know the man. But how can we say something about him? As I said, we were in the buildings. Everybody in here going to heaven, everybody out there going to hell. We're righteous, they're not. Before we try to get this little lint out their eye, we got to get this big old huge boulder out of ours. But he's putting these labels on this man. An adulteress. He said adulteress. Even as, so he comparing this, same thing what he said with this publican. Tell me we don't do it. Don't even know the man. Don't even know him. And then called him all these things. So we done the same thing as when we were going in those buildings. We were doing the same identical thing. And we didn't know none of those people. To show you even how we can even be so self-righteous and belittle people. To show you the ignorance of us. We do this. We'll label people as being these types of people. Even based on their employment or their job description. We'll label them. Not even label them, we won't even speak to them. Not even want to speak to them, you won't have nothing to do with them. But you want their services, but you don't want nothing to do with them. That's to show you how self-righteous we are. That's to show you how self-righteous we are. Period. Just because I'm working with another position that you feel is below your standards to where you shouldn't even speak to them. Labeling them and you don't even know them. Yeah, people who can be in the lower classes of employment. To you, they can be like recycling material collectors. You just want to, and then, wait a minute, but you recycling bottles and cans. But you just speaking to him just to, hey, how you doing this morning? Hello. Hey, how you doing? Hey, hello. Hey, how you doing this morning? Yeah, I just need to get this weighed. Are you serious? Like it's dirty talking to the man. You got these hand packers with them packs and stuff and all that. You can't talk to them. Why? Because they beneath your standards. Stupidity. Cooks. Cashiers. Cafeteria attendants. Dishwashers. He come out and do, he can be walking out. You can see him. He has the thing on the front. I forgot what you call it. Whatever the thing you put on the front so you won't get it on your clothes. But he have on one of those. You come out and you see him. You got on a suit, and you think you are debonair. And he sit there, sir. Man, you sure look nice today, man. That's a nice suit. You look at, yeah, thank you. Can't sit there and say, hey, man, I really appreciate it. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, how you doing today? No, you can't do that. You got to look at thank you. Like I know I do. Yeah, man, maybe one day you might be able to get one. This is the problem. Self-righteous. Laundry workers, lobby attendants. And then the first thing you want to do is labeling them swindlers or unrighteous. Oh, well, he only speaking because he must want something. He only saying that because he wants something from me. Are you serious? Are you serious? This is what we do. These are things we do. But it gets better. It gets better than this. Watch this. See, this Pharisee, this hypocrite, he says this. He says, I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all all that I possess. Man, it gets more disrespectful. How do it get more disrespectful than that? How do it get more disrespectful than that? The same thing is when at an office down in another city, and when I was in there, and some of the same people that I was with, couldn't even speak to the janitor. Didn't want to give him the time of day. Nice guy. He was a Mexican guy, but a nice guy. And he'd come in my office, and he'd empty the trash, and he'd wipe down stuff and all that. And every time he came in, I spoke to him. He had probably about 10, 15 years on me. So I said, hey, sir, how you doing this morning? Or how you doing this afternoon? He come in at different times. And we did that so much, we get in conversations. And he wasn't born here. He came here, and to be honest, I'm not sure, but I know he had a green card because he was working legally here. But he was a nice guy. Nice guy. And when he sat there and he said some things, he said, yeah, I'm going to retire, but when I retire, I'm going to go back to Guadalupe. I'm going back to Mexico and Guadalupe. Oh, okay. You're going back there? Yeah, I'm going to go back there. And he said, telling me why, but he said, but I'm having a house built there. And he telling me he got guys working over there. While he was here, he got guys building the house. Okay. Him and his wife going to go back and they'll do this and that. And me and him over time developed a friendship. So even when I seen him anywhere, and might see him, maybe 20, 30 yards out, and I'm coming in the office or leaving the office, but I see him, I call his name. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing, my friend? Hey, I'm doing good. What did it hurt? Nothing. He's a person. So I can speak to him. Hey, how you doing? But then the same thing is we sitting there and we all paying house notes and everything else. His house is paid for as he's building it in the town he want to go back to. Paid for. With land. Paid for. And he said, now I'll go back with what I'm going to be getting. He said, I'm going to live like a king. He told me plain as day, he going to have servants. Because what they pay the servants there, he say his wife ain't got to cook. She ain't got to clean. He said, if I want to, I can have a driver. He said, but I'm good. He's telling me this out of his own mouth. Nice guy, but just a conversation. But we have people looking at him as if he's scum of the earth. How? How is this man scum of the earth? And if this is what he's doing, that's what he's doing. I can care less. In the same as I tell people, if it came down when I was going through life and my children were small, if I had to shovel cow manure for them to survive and to eat right and to live, that's what I would have done. I can care less what you think. But this is the problem with people. We too self-righteous. But let's look at something. But he said the same thing here. So let's look at something. Let's go over here to Matthew 23, and we're going to look at something real quick. Then we're going to go right back over there and finish that one up. Matthew 23. We're going to go to verse 20. We're going to go to verse 5. And we're going to look at something. Because this is what we do. This is literally what we do. It says, but all their works they do for it to be seen of men. What? Self-righteous people. We want to sit there. We want to be in that high-end suit. We want to be in these high-wear places. And they may broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garment. Why? Because you want to be seen of men. You want to be seen of men. We can't be like the publican. See, the publican even sitting over here saying, he said, see, and the publican standing far off and would not even lift up so his eyes, even unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God, be merciful unto me, a sinner. He didn't have to say nothing about this publican. He didn't have to say nothing about a Pharisee. He didn't have to say nothing about a scribe or anybody else. He said, hey, be merciful unto me, God. I'm a sinner. We can't, no, that sounds too much like right. That sounds too much like right. But it gets better. Why? Because this is just what we do. We're going to go to Romans chapter 10, and we're going to get a little bit deeper in this. In chapter 10, we're going to look at verse 2. And this is the problem. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to the knowledge. Don't have no knowledge of God. Dumb about it. Stupid about it. Everybody in here going to heaven. Everybody out there ain't going to heaven. This is a bad thing. We do these things at the beginning, and you have people constantly do this. Everything we do, we're going to do not according to the knowledge of God, but we're doing everything according to the doctrine of men, thinking we're doing them for God. But they have no knowledge of the word of God or the understanding of it. Why? Because he even says this. He even says this when you look in verse 3. Watch how he clears this up for you. He's going to clear this up for you. He says, for they, them same people, being ignorant of God's righteousness. Don't have no, we're going to teach God what righteousness is. God, run to it. God, I know you like the Sabbath day, but I got a better day, God. I got a better day. And actually, I'm going to do something better. Tell me we don't. Tell me we don't do it. Watch all the places open. Watch every place is open. Now, God got a better way. Got a better way of doing it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness and have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. Because I want to tell you why, God, I can't submit to that because it don't work for me. It don't work for me, God. But I got a better way of doing it. I got a better way of doing it, God. So I'm going to do it this way. Promise you, you'll like it later. Don't worry. Some of you might not like, but don't worry. You're going to like it later. When you made me, God, you broke the mold. This is us. This is our understanding on how we so self-righteous in our own eyes. Matthew, we're going to look at Matthew. Let's look at Matthew chapter 12. Let's dig a little bit more in this understanding. Matthew chapter 12, we're going to park it over here at verse 7. It says, but if ye had known what this meaneth, I would have mercy and have not sacrificed, ye would have not have condemned the guiltless. He done caught us up. If ye had known and understood the scripture, they would not have mean what including having mercy. They would not have been killing these dang animals. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They wouldn't have done it. If we had known this, we wouldn't have been killing animals. But we did. You got men in there now telling you, well, since you don't have the animals, get the money. Meaning this, if you would have had animals, you would have killed them. Because why? You're giving the money. So watch this. He says, for the Son of Man, the servant of man, who is Christ, but they thinking he's talking about himself, the flesh, being the Pharisee, and he's not saying that. He's saying the servant of man is the Lord even of the Sabbath day. But they sitting there thinking that this man telling you physically that's him. That's showing you the ignorance of man. That's showing you the ignorance of man. Why? Because I'm going to show it to you. Because we need to understand what's going on. Because the servant of man is Christ. It's the creator of the Sabbath. And that one, we got to pay attention to. Actually, let's go here. That just came up with something. Let's go here. Just came up with something, but we're gonna go here because this actually helps explain what I'm trying to get you to see. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 21. I know right where it is. Let me get there. Verse 21. It says this. It says this, and this is wrong color. My apologies. And it says, beware of him who, Christ, the word, and obey his voice, provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions. He will not pardon your forgetfulness. He's not going to pardon that. For my name is in him. So he's not pardoning your forgetfulness at all. At all. And I'm going to tell you why. See, he's saying these things to make sure you're clear and you understand where he's coming from. You need to clearly understand why he's not going to pardon your transgressions. Why he's not going to pardon all your forgetfulness. He's not going to pardon that. Why? Because we choosing to do this and to show you're not holding on to Christ. To do that you're not holding on to anything because you done developed your own righteousness. Let's look at this. Let me show you. I'm telling you, we're a piece of work. We are a piece of work, but I'm going to show you this. Because what we have done, we done went and developed our own. This is why he says this, and this is why he holds to, that's why he's telling you right there. He ain't going to pardon that. That's not going to get pardoned. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why. And then once you see why, you can't get around it. This is why you ain't going to get around it. It says, but the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things. Who? Christ. And watch this. And bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have said to you. All this stuff going to come back to you. So when you choose not to do it, whose problem is it? It's not his, it's yours. It's not his problem, it's your problem. You can get off of that. Oh, well, I forgot. Oh, well, Lord, I just forgot. No. So you never had it. So you're not none of mine. See, he's clear here. He's clear. This is the problem we have. This is the things we got to go through. But watch, he gets better on this as we go over here in Romans chapter 10, verse 4. It says, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness. Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. People sit there like, see, he's the end of the law. He's the end of the law. No, do you want to tell you what? See, that's stupidity, that's ignorance because they don't know the law. They don't know it. So how is Christ is the end of the law? How is he end of the law? So we got to find out what this is. See, I'm going to tell you the simplest thing is this. See, I do these things, but we need to understand what the England language is. Because English is a flavor of England. English is slang. But people fail to tell you that. I'm just telling you what the truth is. I'm speaking English. I'm speaking slang of England. I'm telling you what this is. So with that, we don't understand a lot of the words that they say or what they mean. We don't know what they say or mean. Because when he's sitting there telling you something, we need to know what it is. We need to know exactly what it is. And most of us don't know what it is. That's why he says this. That's why he said this right here. It says Christ is the end of the law. Christ is the end of this. And most of us don't know what that means. Just that one word, end. We don't know what that means. But what do it mean? It tells you this. So if Christ is the end of the law, is the law what? So most of us don't know what end means. But it's the destruction of the law of flesh. It's the destruction of the law of flesh. That's all he's saying. It's the completeness or the accomplishment which he had came to do. Are you following me? It's the completion of what he came to do, of the law for all righteousness. See, Christ is the end of the law is the end of the law for righteousness. He's telling you up front what he did. Let's look at this. Let me help you here to where we get it. To where we get it. And we're going to put it where the goats can get it. We're going to put it where the goats can get it. And this is why he said these things. So we're going to see why he said this. In Romans chapter 8, and picking up at verse 3, it tells you this. It says, for what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh. So he's the end of the law, because that's what he came for. He came because it was weak through the flesh. So God sending his own servant, the word, in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh. That's what he came to do. That's why he's the end of the law. The end of the law, what? What he's telling you over there in Galatians. Because those was made known. He ended that. No, we got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of this. That's why he says this. That's why he holds those things to where we can come back to our memories. And when we do those things, yeah, we can, it can help us out a lot better. Spelled that wrong. Okay, so let's look at something. We're going to go to Colossians chapter 2, picking it up at verse 20, and we're going to get a little bit more clarification. Because we're going to see what those works are. And you can go over there at Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 through 21. You'll see this. You're going to see exactly what he's saying. It clearly what he's saying. So we see that it says, wherefore, if ye be dead with Christ from the rudiments of the world, what? The rudiments of the world, the works of the flesh, which are made known. You follow me? These things are made known. So if these things are made known, now he's showing you what these rudiments are. So watch this. In the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, ye are subject to the ordinances. So you subject, according to the flesh, you subject to the ordinances. So the rudiments, and it's telling you right here, the rudiments. So you write this down because I want you to make sure you understand as we move forward, you know what all this stuff means. So can't nobody later fool you on any type of stupid doctrines. But what it's telling the rudiment, it's the elements of this world, which are nothing that have value, which is the spirit that is left. That's all he's saying. So the rudiments are things of this world, but it has no value to the spirit. Because living of the flesh, you're subject to the ordinances. So then when you're subject to the ordinance, you're subject to the works of it. That's what he's telling you. That's what he's saying right here. So then it comes down to this very line. Comes down to this very line. Meaning this. He holds you to this. He says, touch not, taste not, handle not. You see how he's catching this? Comes down and touch not, taste not, handle not. So same as then, don't taste swine flesh. Don't touch a woman. Don't handle an idol. You see what he's saying there? Because these are things that you don't supposed to be doing according to the flesh. Because if you're with Christ, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. But he has to tell you this. So he goes on more where he explains this in verse 22. He says, which all are to perish with the using. It's plain as day. It's vain. After the commandments and doctrines of men. So that's why he put the question mark there. That's why he got the question mark there. These things we need to really clearly understand when we're dealing with Bible. But the biggest thing is we sit there and we listen to men who telling you about Bible, but they just telling you what they know of the Bible, which is nothing. So it's the same thing. I had a guy sit there that told me a while back, and he said this, and he talked to me. He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, it's really weird where I come over to King James Bible University, and you guys don't have like crazy subscriber numbers because this doctrine ain't for everybody. A lot of people don't want to know the truth. Our truth is always open, but it's simple. It's straightforward." So it says this in people see these things, but we find out people really love things according to the flesh. People love doctrines of men. People love that. So you have to come to that. You have to come to that realization that that's actually in the world. So those ones who seeking that. We're not seeking you. We're only seeking which is those that are lost. That is amongst you guys, and that way we can come in there and get you out, get them out. That's it. But he says this. He says, which things have in deeds in works a show of wisdom in will, workmanship, in worship, in humility, in neglecting the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. You see how clear he's making this? You ain't trying to satisfy flesh for nothing. For nothing. Period. Because when you satisfying flesh, you doing righteousness things for yourself. That's self-righteous. Hopefully now we're seeing the two blends together. So when you doing the mind and flesh, you practicing self-righteousness. Not the deeds of that you need to be doing with the covenant of God. That's the subject of everything that's going on. So many of us going to do those things. So how you look at this, the humility. That's why he says this, humility, right here. He's holding you on to these things. So if you're going to hold on to the humility of this, that's the meekness, having a good conscience, including neglecting of the body. How? Actually, 8:14. Actually, it was already over here, but we can go over here. 8:13, I believe it is. 8:13. How? Because you're going to neglect the body. Because you're going to live for the spirit. Why it says that? Tell you, if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if ye live through the spirit, do mortify. You killing the deeds. You're not doing anything, the deeds of the body, and you shall live. That's what he's telling you. Because why? You're going to do in neglecting the body. That's why he's saying doing it. That's why you do this. You're going to neglect the things of the body. Or you seeing how this is planned and it's laid out for you. We look for no one, and as he's bringing this word to you, he don't look to leave no one there. But he has some people who, no matter what, they're going to live according to the flesh, and they're going to self-righteous, and they're going to go through their mind and believe that they're going to do self-righteousness in their own way. No matter what. No matter what we do, they're going to come up with that. So he's saying that, but in neglecting of the body, not in any honor to satisfying of the flesh. That's why he's saying this. So you have to mortify these acts. But where did Paul and them, and Paul is pulling all this stuff, but Paul is pulling this from the Old Testament. But he's pulling it from a parable that we've seen in the Old Testament that most people just look over. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. And we're going to look at this real good. We're going to go to Numbers. We're going to go to Numbers chapter 29. And we're going to look at verse 7. Look at verse 7. We're going to look at what he said. And we sit there and same thing I said. When you see the blackness there, it's just showing you those words were just added. That's why you see that there. Because somebody actually asked, but that's why that's there. And you'll see here, and I didn't add them. That's actually in your Bible, but it's actually added. That's why it's italicized. But anyway, when we're looking at this, we're going to see what happened. It says, and ye shall have on the 10th day of this 7th month a holy convocation, and ye shall afflict your souls. Ye shall not do any work therein. What did he say? He's telling you right there what he meant. So we're going to look at this. We need to look at this. He told you right there. Right there. He told you right there, ye shall mortify your souls. You already know what that means. That's your body. So you need to mortify your bodies. And you should do no work therein. He's telling you the same thing. He already said this. Paul just making it clear for you. But that's where Paul got this from. That's where Paul pulled this from. And the main thing is this: if you cannot mortify your bodies from doing work, and you're unable to do so, he got a cancellation prize for you. He got a cancellation prize for you. And we're going to look at it. Leviticus chapter 23, we're going to pick it up at verse 29. And it says this. It says this. It says, for whosoever soul, so whosoever body be it, shall not be afflicted, mortified, in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. You cut off from the people of Israel. You cut off. Now we get it. See, I believe we got it now where the ghost can get it. I believe we pretty understood when we working doing the deeds of the flesh, we doing self-righteousness work. Because that's what Moses described in how righteousness looks, which is in the law of flesh. Any man do in living by the things of the flesh will we receive the rewards of the flesh. You follow me? This is why we running it this way. This is why we see this. Let's look at it. Let's look at it a little bit more. A little bit more to where we can understand a little bit clear on what was happening. A little bit more in what do we need to see. So let's go back to Romans chapter 10 and see something. We're going to go to Romans chapter 10. We're going to go back to verse 5. Because we need to explain 5 to make sure we're all clear on this here. So when it's saying this in verse 5, it says, for Moses describeth the righteousness which is of the law. That's why he said that. That's why that was being said. Because Moses described this, what is righteousness. And it says that man that doeth those things shall live by them. That's why he's saying this. But he gets better on what he's going to say here. So we got to see what it looks like. We want to see and understand what it looks like and see how to work it and see how to really get the understanding of this. Watch how he says this. Watch real close up what he got, how he run this. 10:6. It says, but the righteousness which is of faith speaketh on the wise. So you're going to speak on this, so you're going to speak it on this understanding. Say, not in thy heart. Who shall ascend into heaven? He said a mouthful here. See, because in our heart is where we're going to find sin. But he's saying who in their heart is going to ascend into heaven. But he clarifies the thing. He says that is to bring Christ down from above. Really? Really? Let's look at something. Only one wanted to ascend into heaven. Only one want to do that. But people sitting there telling you about the everything, rapture and everything else. And we got to look at it. So we're going to look at Isaiah chapter 14. We're going to go to verse 13. And we're going to see one that actually said that. He says, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of the congregation on the sides of the north. Who did that? Satan. He did. Self-righteous. Self-righteous. Only self-righteous people do this. We're going to be raptured up, and we're going to... Self-righteous. You're going to send yourself a step above. Above. That's why he said, if your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. How do you think he's saying all this? And it's clear as day because Satan's saying this, but we still sitting there. That's why he said the scribes and Pharisees. He makes this, I don't know, clear as day, but we just got to make sure we all get it. So in verse 20, it tells you again. By saying to you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Ye shall no case enter into the kingdom of God, okay, kingdom of heaven. He's clear. You have women getting into this because they so self-righteous. See, I've been on men, but women do it too. Women get self-righteous. Women have gotten so self-righteous where they'll sit there and they say out of their own mouth, and I have seen many of them say, I'm not saying one, I heard many say, well, men fell, so the women had to pick up the ball. And they had to go teach. So not just men. Women has gotten into this. See, I tell you how the stupidity and the ignorance of men, but I got to also get on these sisters. I also got to get on you guys. Because this is what we have done. They get there and they want to sit there and tell you what they have done. So we need to look at this as a whole. Because we do it on both sides. We do it on both sides. So we look at this in Ezekiel chapter 34. And we're going to go to verse 31. And this is, women do this like crazy. But it tells you right here in this. Right here. It says, and ye, my flock, the flock of my pasture, the ones who was out there feeding these people, are men. You see that? It's our men. The flock of my pasture, the ones that's out there feeding the people, are men. And I am your God. So these men's going to feed you. And he didn't only stop here. See, Paul clarified this. Again, where Paul got this from. Let's look at it. So, but women going to sit there. So that's why I say, people who sit under women, the worst thing you can do. But hell will be your resting place. That's the thing with this. So when we know this, these are the things. So, but this is where Paul got this from. So we look at Ephesians chapter 4, and you're going to see why Paul's saying this, but now we know where he got it from because I got it over there. It says, wherefore, he said, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. That's why he gave them to those men. To do what? To teach the word, to feed the people. That's what he done. He made this clear. But you still have women on there where the men drop the ball. We have to go out and teach. No, they're gonna get you, but right in the hell. Right in hell, where they gonna get you. And he clarified it. And he said, and he gave some apostles. You got women running around with this name. Some prophets. You got some running around with that name. Some evangelists. You got a bunch of them running around with that name. And some pastors, you got a ton of them running around with that name, and teachers. You got them running around with those names. But you see right there, he gave gifts unto men. The men of his pasture, the people of his pasture are men that feed the people. It doesn't matter, but these women sitting there because they're using you to fleece you for money. This is why you sit there. That's why they sit there, and many of them are put in the comment section, no, this is not true, no, that's not true. But the same thing I say, I'm no one. But I promise you they never stand before. Now, we always offer it to them, and we would listen to what they have to say. But since they know that they're a liar, they don't want to stand before you. They don't want to stand before you. But it tells you exactly what they're about. It tells you exactly what they're about. But the same as who would ascend into heaven. Who will ascend into heaven? It tells you the clear part about that. But we're gonna go back and we're gonna look at the same part, and we're gonna see that in Romans chapter 10, but we're gonna go down to verse 7. We want to see Romans 10. We're going to go down to verse 7. and pick that back up. Pick this back up. And it says, or, because we already know what's ascending, or who shall descend into the deep. That is to bring up Christ again from the dead. You see how he's running this. You're going to bring up Christ from the dead. Are you serious? This is why we have that problem. This is why we have so much of a problem, because so many people have desire to be teachers of God. And they mainly, I'm talking, you can go to many places, many places. And I promise you, you're going to get a whole lot of lip service. And they're going to talk about what they doing. They doing this, they doing this, they doing that, they doing this. You ain't going to get Bible, which you can learn of God, to which you can get back in covenant with God. But in Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 8, it says, I am the Spirit of God. That is my name. In my glory I will not give to another, neither praise to graven images. You have so many people that sit there and tell you this here, that they got the glory of God. This is the image of us, thinking we holding on to something. And so, as I said, as we go through here, the same as people teach on Job, and the same thing we show you about Job, because it tells you right here in Job chapter 32 verse 1, it tells you these three men seems to answer Job because Job was righteous in his own eyes. Job was righteous in his own eyes. But you see, people glorify the acts of Job, and he was righteous in his own eyes. Job. But people will tell you contrary to this. So how was Job cursed? How was Job so jacked up? I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show you what Job was, because I'm going to keep that there. I want you to see that Job, actually I'm going to highlight that. Job was righteous in his own eyes. That's clear. But why? Let's look at it. We got to look at Job. We got to look at Job to see how he was doing it. So we see Job chapter 1. We're going to look at that verse 5. It says, and it was so when the days of their feasting, Job kids, were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. Are you serious? You going to tell me Job's not self-righteous? Job is sitting there. He's killing something. See, first we want to understand this. I want to show you something. Let me unhighlight this. Then I'm going to show you something here. We need to look at that one. Cursed. Cursed. Meaning they sitting there, in just foundational understanding is they denounce the covenant with God. They curse God in their hearts. They denounce the covenant with God in their hearts. That's what that's saying. That's showing you what they did. But Job feel he can go kill some animals and put them back in covenant with God. You don't think that's self-righteous? 100% self-righteous. 100% self-righteous. That's what we do. He got the number of these kids, and now every day he's killing the same number of his kids. He's killing animals. Why? Because Job's self-righteous. But you can go in many churches, and you're going to see many people say how righteous Job was, how righteous he was. But Job was righteous in his own eyes. And the only one when you self-righteous like that, who knows this? Satan. See, Satan says some things. Because this is what we do. We're going to look at Job chapter 2. Why? Pick it up at verse 4. Because we're going to find out something. Satan talked to the Lord, had a conversation with him. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin. All that a man have, he will give for his life. Exactly the point. Job, besides giving up those kids, he was killing animals at an unreal number. That's what we do. We don't think nothing about it. He was killing these animals daily. The number of the kids, they died. Sheep sitting in the pen say, is you going to be it today? I don't know. You? I don't know. Let's go hang out in the back. Because he coming through here. He taking out 7 of us every day. Dying. As Satan said, skin for skin. He gonna kill. You gonna die for his kids. Come on, sheep. Y'all getting ready to die for my kids. Come on. Are you serious? He did this continually. But the Bible tells you something. Same thing what Paul said. Paul took a lot of this stuff from here and giving you the silhouette picture. So the same thing the Bible tells you. So this is what Job was doing. But the Bible tells you things to make stuff clear. In Hebrews chapter 10, verse 4, he tells you, for it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sin. It's not possible. It's not possible. And when things don't go your way, who do you put it on? Put it on God. You put it on God. When it don't go your way, you put it on God. Because you thinking, we can do this for that, and God got to honor it. Because my self-righteousness way, I'm sacrificing these animals, so I'm so self-righteous, God has to honor this. For the blood of bulls and the goats cannot take away the sin. They curse God. They curse God. They curse God. Are you serious? See, this is what goes on. So as that happens, now Job is sitting there saying, they might have cursed God, and Job is saying, okay, I got to kill me some more animals. And then something happened to Job. Something happened to Job. Something happened to Job. And when it happened to Job, and everybody like to sit there and they talk about these perfect women. They always want to put that woman in Proverbs. They want to put it on flesh. Can't put it on flesh because it's a spirit. But they put it on flesh, and that's the lie. Because I'm going to show you what this woman did. I'm going to show you what this fleshly woman did. Let's look at verse 9. Because Job was getting hooked up. Then said his wife, who women want to call themselves to help me, and you're not to help me, but they want to claim that. So we're going to see what, in your eyes, according to the sinfulness of flesh, let's see what she told Job. And let's see if she's this woman that you guys say she is. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still restrain thy integrity? Are you serious? Do you still restrain your integrity? Your integrity. You gonna hold up to what he said? She said what? Curse God and die. Cursing. But you'll sit there and say, this is the same woman in Proverbs. Are you serious? Why? Because we self-righteous. That's how self-righteous we are. She's saying these things happening to you, so since they happening to you, cursing. So since they happening to you, cursing. Go ahead and die. Break the covenant with God and die. Break it. He look what he's doing to you. He letting all this happen to you. You killing animals, but every time my kids sin, and he done let this happen to you, curse God. Go ahead and die. Don't hold your integrity. Don't hold that covenant with God, please. But that shows you even how we are. Well, we'll put flesh above the Spirit of God. I'm talking about we do this constantly. In Zechariah, we're gonna find out something because it's just what we do. We I can't get out of this just what we do because this is just how we are. In Zechariah chapter 7, we're gonna look at verse 11. It says exactly what we do. Exactly what we do. It says, but they refuse to hearken. We ain't gonna listen to him. He's telling us what to do, but we refuse to hearken. And pull away the shoulder. No, you know how you snatch your shoulders? I know you guys know what I'm talking about. We'll snatch our shoulders away from God. We don't want to hear it. You don't get your way, snatch your shoulder. I ain't got time to deal with you. You can't do it, I'm gone. Lord, go in there and you'll pray. Lord, run there with Lord, I've been good. Really. You good in who eyes? See, you got to keep that in mind. Lord, I've been good. And I've been had my eye on this Mercedes, AMG style, with black wheels, And Lord, I need you to put that in my life. And if you can, throw in 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. None of them come true. Shrug your shoulders. Please, God ain't who he said he is. Why? Why? This is the stupidity. Let's go back to the men. I told you, men, we just got to be honest with ourselves. We some of the dumbest creatures walking the face of this earth. We just got to come up with the reality of it. But the main thing is this: we'll sit there, and I know men that sit there. Some of them gonna try to deny it, but I'm telling you what the truth is. They'll sit there and they will court women. We'll go spend $20. $10 was on us. $10 was on her, and then we looking for something after we took them there. Well, I know they're gonna get me laid. So she got to put out on this because I done did this. And she tell you thank you. All of a sudden, pull away. Stop up your ears. That they should not hear. You don't want to hear nothing she got to talk about now. Don't mess around and take it to a restaurant that cost you $100 or more, and she didn't put out. You definitely gonna shrug your shoulders. So you do that to her, you know what you're doing to Christ. When you sitting there, you done asked for that car, that whatever you were seeking, and it didn't happen. Once it didn't happen, the first thing you do, you shrug your shoulders. Stop up your ears, you don't want to hear nothing. Yea, they made their hearts as an animate stone, lest they should hear the law. In the words of the Spirit of God of hosts has sent his Spirit by the former prophets. For that reason came a great wrath from the Spirit of God of hosts. For that reason alone. Why? We don't want to hear. We don't want to listen. When we don't want something and we want something and we don't get it, then we don't do it. See, this is the problem that men refuse to see. This is a big problem with us. Same with women. They'll sit there, they'll want something, the man don't do it. Oh, okay, now all of a sudden, he's scum of the earth. Why? Because he knew what you want. Why? You're self-righteous. So you decide you're going to put wrath down on him. Self-righteous. But he gets better. For that reason, therefore, it come to pass that as he cried and they would not hear, so they cried and I would not hear, said the Spirit of God of hosts. You tit for tat. You didn't hear him, he don't hear you. It's that simple. You didn't hear him, why no? You sitting there shrugging your shoulders. He said, I already told you, all the earth is his. But no, I ain't gonna do that. No, Lord, no, it's a better day to worship you. I'm gonna worship you. No, Lord, I'm gonna do it. Sabbath day ain't good. I'm gonna do it on Tuesday. But Lord, I need that new Beamer, that M5. I need that new Beamer in my yard, 7:00 in the morning. Don't get it. Okay, Lord, I ain't gotta roll with you no more. Better yet, let's go closer. You sit there and you have a loved one, sick, near death, right at dying. Lord, I'm going to worship you every day if you save them. One, that's what your butt should have been doing the entire time. Two, it's his prerogative if he wanted to live or die. You don't know what the time is, he do. Don't happen? Lord, ain't nobody. Why? We do it like clockwork. We do it like clockwork. Why? Because we self-righteous. We have to understand that he know our beginning as well as he know our ending. We don't know these things. But since we don't know them, we seek him on an as-needed basis. And then on an as-needed basis, when we don't do those, we want to put it on everything else. And then some of us lie. Oh, they're in a better place anyway. So you still kind of shrugging God off. Oh, well, they died of this, but they're in a better place now. Really? Oh, interesting. That's really interesting. Because you're still taking it from God. The Lord giveth and he taketh away. But we still going to hold it to where we don't want to give God no credit. This is what we do. So as he do this, we are righteous in our own eyes. But to even get more down into this, let's look at it a little bit more here. As we winding this on down, we're going to look at 2 Thessalonians. Let's look at this here. And we're going to look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. And we're going to go over here in the verse 12 and we're going to park there. And it says, now them that are such we command and exhort. And exhort. So we need to encourage you. Encourage you. In doing what? And exhort by our Creator of salvation, the Anointed One. With the quietness they work. With the quietness, you don't even catch it. It'll slip right by you. And learn their own bread. But he's catching you right there. He's catching you right there. Why? Because he already warned you. Let's look at it again. Let's look at this again. We got to go right back to it again. Because some of us might have forgot, but we got to. You know, let me get this Romans. Let's make sure we just recap and just make sure we understand what this is saying. Verse 3. For they being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of God. So we need to remember that we need to submit to the righteousness of God and not to the righteousness of ourselves. Because when we do that, we already know what God sees, and we're going to overlook some of these. Wait a minute, boy, I'm sitting there. I don't know why I keep that this V not coming in. PR. I'm trying to do it without looking. I'm going to have to look right down here at it. I'm trying to do it without looking down there typing, but I had to go down there and look. So we're going to look at this, and we're going to see what's happening. So in Proverbs, this is how he sees this. And it says, there is a generation that are pure in their own eyes. It's a generation out here that is pure in our own eyes. I want you to meditate on what that's saying, because we're not adhering to the righteousness of God, but we're adhering to our own righteousness in our own eyes. And there's a generation out here that's doing this. Question becomes, what is righteousness? People that's worshiping on the Sundays and other days and doing this, paying money as tithes. These is a condition of the circumstances. Righteousness and salvation, the same as darkness and evil, the same as righteousness with God, and they establish their own righteousness. So one is vanity and one is true. And the one you choose is the condition of the circumstances you're going to be in. So is righteousness feeding you when you're hungry, or is feeding you when you're unclean, with unclean foods? You tell me. What about a person seeking sexual favors? To seek peace or to exalt someone your way? These things, everything I said, is still based on the righteousness of God. Everything. Why? Because I'm going to show you this as we're going out. We're going to see this in Genesis 39. We're going to look at this 39. We're going to go to verse 9. Same thing with Joseph. When Pharaoh's wife, the king of sin, wanted to lay with Joseph, you see right here with Joseph sitting there. Now she wanted to freely lay with him. She wanted to lay with him. He didn't want to lay with her. But Joseph even told, he said, there is none greater in this house than I. And she's in there. He only difference between him and Pharaoh. He said only Pharaoh was greater than him in that house. Neither had he kept back anything from me but thee. That's only just her. He says, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He didn't say sin against Pharaoh, did he? Because righteousness is with God. Righteousness is with God. And it's the way God sees it. So we have to remember these things on how he sees righteousness and how he sees our righteousness. So as we see this, when we go to Isaiah chapter 64, we're going to pick it up at verse 6. It says, but we are all as, we compare it the same way as unclean things. And all our righteousness are as filthy rags. So however you see your righteousness according to the flesh, it is nowhere close to the righteousness of God. No way possible. So I don't care less how you look at it. You're going to sit there, well, I'm doing this and I know this. It says no. It is as a filthiness, as a filthy rag. And we all do fade as a leaf. Every one of us. And our acts of sin, our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. This is clear. This is clear. So you keep these in mind. You keep these in your pocket. Because when we practice in righteousness, this is all with the righteousness of God. Not with the righteousness of another man's table. So you look at that and you keep that in mind. Because many men are going to give you the righteousness of another man's table. And not the righteousness of God. So we're going to go over here to Acts chapter 5 and verse 29. And it says this. Same as Apostle Peter. He said this. to the other one, the answer said, we are to obey God rather than man. That's the key to what we should have been doing the entire time, and not holding on to what other men say and telling you what righteousness is in their eyes. They should have been showing you the entire time. When you ever go through any type of teachings with anyone, I don't care where you are, they should be showing you Bible and not sitting there telling you things or giving you a verse, and then they proceed to give you the pure understanding on what they said. That's stupidity. That's complete stupidity and not going to help you out at any time. But many people are still going to adhere to those. They're going to hold to that. They're going to sit there and say, well, this person is a great teacher or whatever, and they give you one verse, and then they tell you all what you need to do according to the flesh and how you need to take care of them. It's not going to help you out at all. So with that, as we said before, anyone that always want to join with the King James Bible University School, you can look down in the description. You got an enrollment form right there with the admission application. You can fill it out to where once it's filled out, then we will go through it to where you can make sure to where you can sign up for the classes. Once you do that, then you can be admitted in there. And right now we have Daniel chapter 11 and 12. We had the last two. We finishing up in the next couple of weeks. And with that, once we're done with that, we're allowing people to come in on those last two. That's coming in for the university, and you're actually able to come in. So with that, we are allowing that. And then the same thing with tomorrow. We'll be going through Romans, which we'll be going through chapter 8. We'll be picking that up, as well as Monday, we'll be doing another class study. So with that, I wish that each and every person was greatly edified based on what was taught. So until tomorrow, and we'll be over on the King James Bible University side. So until tomorrow, I say to each and every person, Shalom.
Drop it.